What is crack-a-lackin' Ridge Runner Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Ridge Runners Live. Tonight we are joined by a phenomenal guest. We're super excited to hear all about her recent course record performance at the Shawnee 50 miler just a couple weeks back, running 10 hours flat on this brutal course. Some call it the hardest ultra in Ohio. I think that's a pretty fair name nowadays. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mia Yeager, how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. We've gotten some snow the past couple days, so it's been interesting weather. Lots of rain and sleet and hail, snow. Yeah. So the weather's changing. Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully for me, I'm still in Montana at this point, and it's actually we had 70-degree weather this week, but it's going to slowly drop down to snowy conditions here before we know it. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Tonight, joined as always by the lovely John Dolovaki the third. How's it going, man?
Doing great. Chilling down here in the world of Cincinnati for this week for work, and be happy to be missing all that sleety, snowy kind of stuff up there in the Northeast Ohio area, and not looking forward to the weather change. Unlike you, Wesley.
Definitely. Well, let's just start things off with how we normally start the show. What is everyone drinking? And I'll throw it over to you, Mia, first.
So I have water from my orange Nalgene. This is actually my second orange Nalgene. My first one broke. It dropped out of my car and shattered. So I don't know. I've never heard of that happening to anybody else. But I contacted Nalgene and they sent me a brand new one. So yeah, yeah.
Awesome, John. What about you?
This evening, I actually have some Athletic Brewing Company Athletic Light beer. I got to watch my figure for the winter months. So I got these 25-calorie drinks. They're delicious. I love them. What about you, Wesley? What do you got over there?
Yeah, I've got the Big Sky IPA today, another local one out here in Montana for this week. So excited to get into that. But more excitingly, I'm excited to talk all things Shawnee 50. So, as always, Ridge Runner Nation, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you're listening afterwards on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, feel free to leave a review there as well. We appreciate it all. But Mia, before we dive too deep into the race itself this year, let's just talk about, how you kind of found ultra running. I always kind of like to learn a little bit about the backstory of someone and kind of, the first time they laced up a pair of trail shoes, because I think that's so different for each person and a kind of unique story. So how about you start there?
Yeah. So I ran cross country in high school. And after I graduated, I had I want to start running marathons. So I started training for that, ran a lot of the local marathons like Columbus and Akron, Cleveland a couple times, the Towpath Marathon, and ended up qualifying for Boston, ran that twice, ran New York City once. And then I kind of was looking for something else. Like I always enjoyed running on the trails. Like in high school, my high school wasn't far from the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So I was running on those trails all the time and I always loved it. And so I just started kind of listening to podcasts about ultra running and decided to sign up for my first ultra, which I think I ran in 2016. It was the Green Jewel. It's actually a road 50K. And ended up winning that. And then the next year signed up for a trail 50K, the Fools 50K, and just loved that race. And then there was kind of a lull for a while. I had some really bad plantar fasciitis and some other that I had to figure out. And then, just these past couple years and I started really getting back into running. So I think in 2019, I only ran 260 miles in the year. So my mileage was starting to just get real. And I was, you know what, I just want to get back into it. So I signed up for the Bigfoot 10 miler, ran that. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to do Burning River Front 50 next year. So I trained for that and ran it, and everything's been going pretty well since then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so unique because you've almost had two starts to your trail running career. The original one that you kind of
Yeah.
and you win your first ultra ever that you go into. That's incredible. And then you
Yeah.
go through the lull you had kind of talked about, and then kind of finding the
Hmm.
resurgence in your trail running career in recent times. Talk about what it's been like to kind of go to Burning River last year, and then going back this year, and winning it this year. Kind of talk about what that transition's been like, especially in the past 12 months.
Well, I, you know, I had a lot of base mileage from years and years of running. And then, so when I first started back up and started training for, training for Burning River the first time, the front 50, like it was tough getting back into it. And, I went out there and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make my goal just to run it in, around 10 hours. I think that was my goal. And I far exceeded my own expectations and ran like a 8 hours, 47 minutes, I think. So went pretty well. And then I was like, you know what, I want to try to win it next year. So I placed third last year, and this year I started really putting more mileage in, lots more speed workout, and ran a lot of the trails that the course goes through. So and then ended up winning. So yeah, it all went really well. Yeah.
So when you went down to Shawnee, did you go in with the intentions of one, winning, and two, even trying to break the course record? Like, was that in the back of your mind when you started that race?
Yeah, it was like I had noticed that you know the course record was 11 hours and 14 minutes. So my goal was to break the course record, and I was like, I'm going to try to do it in under 11 hours, and we'll see how it goes. And ended up doing it in 10 instead. So
Yeah, you were
yeah,
like flat
yeah,
10, weren't you? Like pretty much.
yeah, pretty much, yeah, yeah.
So almost under 10 for
Yeah.
for
And
6 hours of a
I
day.
really I really didn't expect that at all. Like I came through like the halfway point, um, a little under 5 hours, because I knew it would take longer the second half. I'm like, wow. I kept doing trail math as I was going. I'm like, okay, if I keep up like a 12-minute pace for the last 3 miles, I can make it. But I knew that my watch wouldn't be completely accurate too. And I think it ended up saying like I ran 52.2 miles instead of 54. So I was like, I don't really know when the finish is going to be. And I'd never been on the course before either. So it was all completely brand new. Yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, that trail
Yeah.
math is a dangerous game to play, uh,
It is.
especially
Yeah.
longer in those races. You're like, wait a minute, hold on. It's real bad over there.
Yeah.
So taking off that morning, it was a beautiful morning because it was very
Oh,
chill. It
yeah.
wasn't like snowy or rainy or anything like that, and the trails were pretty dry. So, how did you feel like when you started getting going? Like, was there like any major low spots in the early beginning, or were you just steady and feeling good?
Yeah. The weather was absolutely perfect. But I mean it I never really felt like a low spot throughout. But like for the first few miles, I have this really wimpy headlamp. It's like a 10-year-old LED, and I really need to get a new one. But there's this guy running behind me, and his headlamp was so bright that I couldn't really see in front of me. So I kept doing these surges to try to get away from him, and he just like kept catching up to me again. And we just kind of played this back and forth game. And he would get ahead of me as we would go uphill, and then I'd catch him on the downs and in the flats. And at one point, we were running, and he was getting pretty close behind me again. And um, I kind of stumbled on a rock, and I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I can't really see when you follow that close behind me." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." And he's like, "Just let me know if I'm getting too close again." And I look up, and I don't see the course. I don't see any flag markings. I don't see anybody in front of me. and we're like looking around trying to find where we're supposed to go, and he found out where to go pretty quickly. But yeah, after that, he was really nice about it, and I wish I had brought it up sooner because he was behind me for a few hours. But yeah.
So after you kind of get through that opening loop, you kind of have, for those that don't know the course, there's like a 7 mile opening loop. And then from there, you kind of hit the backpacking trail, and it's about a 43-mile consecutive loop around the park there. What were some of your favorite moments in those early sections? You kind of have a couple good opportunities there. The fire tower is obviously a key aid station, but kind of talk about what some of those key moments were for you early on there.
I just, when I go to races that are out of town, I just love the scenery, and the fall colors were absolutely beautiful. And it's just gives you so much energy. Like, I'm in this beautiful place running, and this is just so much fun. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
So when the sun comes out, and you finally ditch the headlamp, and everything's
Yeah.
back to normal per se. What was some of those key moments, or do you ever think to yourself, oh wow, okay, these hills are twice as big as the ones up in Northeast Ohio, or anything like that as you're kind of making your way along the course?
Yeah. So, I just kept chugging along. In my training, I was doing like hill repeats, and training on some of like the hilliest trails that we have here, like in the Cuyahoga Valley. And I just kept myself like, let's just keep going. You're doing great. So let's just chug up this hill, and then we'll power the downhills and go fast on the flats. And there's a saying I always say to myself, like in these tough situations, I say, and it's not something that I came up with. I've heard it from somebody else, but when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So I just power up the hills and I get going. you know.
Was there any so you said when was the first time that you said that mantra to yourself throughout the day for you at this race? Was it the mile 10? Was it later on in the race? When was the first time that you kind of referenced back this mantra that you've been carrying with you?
It was probably about where the split was, somewhere after that, where the 50 mile and 50K split. I'm not sure what mile that is, but yeah.
So when you kind of go into the second part of you kind of go into Camp OEO there, and it's a lot of excitement, kind of hitting that aid station. It's kind of the halfway point. Looking at the map, you kind of know what you're going into there, and you're kind of going out of that aid station. What were those kind of next couple miles like for you? The course starts to get a lot tougher. It's called there's a couple miles in there. It's called the dark side, that I'm sure everyone's referred to it as 1,000 times at the race over the weekend. But kind of talk about what were some of the favorite parts, the challenges, and just kind of how those miles went for you throughout that time.
Yeah, it went pretty well. Once I got to the dark side, there were all the logs that I had to kind of get over. And I can't really just step over them. I'm pretty short. I'm only 5'2", but I'm able to throw my arms out and kind of bolt myself over the logs, which is pretty fun. So I enjoyed it. And then you can't really go fast in there. And I was trying to figure out should I just walk to this next log, or can I do a little jog to it? I don't know. It's like one after another. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, my pace is slowing down so much. And then I'm like, you know what? Everybody else has to do this too. And it's just part of the course. So yeah, but I really loved the course. It was so much fun.
Do you think going back into it for the year two, you just set the course record in it, but do you think you'd add some log jumping or something to your training as well to kind of get through that section a little quicker?
I don't know. I might. I actually, the Mobius Green Monster 50K, that was, I was living with my parents before August. I just bought a house. So But that course was like my backyard course, and I ran it all the time. And there were, logs here and there that the race director likes to leave on the trails to make it a little more challenging. So I think that kind of might have helped me a little bit in training for Shawnee. So, yeah. But I don't know, maybe I would, go back to Sunny Lake and kind of do those loops again and practice my log jumping. Yeah.
Skills you never thought you'd need to invest in for ultra running, jumping logs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go through that whole log section, and once you kind of break through and you get some clear sections again, you're winding down to the last few miles and everything. How were you feeling? At some point later on, you do meet back up with the 50Kers who are out, and so you're dealing with that as well, trying to pass and keep moving at a quicker pace.
Yeah.
So how was that kind of later half part going for you?
I mean, I felt pretty good. Of course, I was getting tired, and like a lot of people there thought I was doing the 50K, which was kind of funny. I'm like, no, I'm doing the 50 mile, but yeah, that sometimes happens. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this race went so well for me. I never hit a wall or felt like, there was a spot where I couldn't run, like a flat or a slow hill or a down. Like I felt like I could keep running pretty much everything except for, the steep inclines, of course. So, yeah.
So do you think that because pretty much like, I think, what is there, like 7% of that course is flat? I think you're either going up or downhill, right? So do you think that maybe that the changing there was what like allowed you to never hit a wall because you constantly kept changing?
I think so. Yeah, I do, because I'd be running these flats or these downs, and I'd be like, oh, it'd be nice to have a break now, and then an uphill, I can walk it. That's great. So I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, because it's just crazy to think that you didn't hit a major wall doing a 50 miler, and probably one of the more the most difficult one in Ohio, and if not most difficult in the area. Like that's crazy, and can't wait to see where you're gonna go after that, if that's the kind of performances you're putting out pretty casually, so to speak. But
yeah.
So how was that very last couple miles as you kind of come down into the across the parking lot and up that last brutal very cruel hill that Michael put at the end of the course?
I love that hill.
You love that hill?
I love it.
So
pictures of people going up it, and they were so mad. They're like, why are you here?
Yeah. So that last downhill, like I was flying down that. I think I hit like a mile in 9.5 minutes or something. I mean, I was cruising, but I actually hit like a rock or a root. I'm not sure what it was, and tripped and fell. In that photo that you guys posted, you can see blood dripping down my knee a little bit. And I think I had fallen like moments before that photo was taken. But I kind of got up, shook it off. I'm like, I'm fine. Nothing's broken. Let's just keep going. So finished that downhill. And then I think I saw Cooper like right in front of me. And we started to go up that last uphill up to the lodge, and he starts running up the hill, and I'm thinking, oh, this must be a 50K runner or something, because he was just powering up that hill. And I was like, no, I'm just gonna walk, because I'm not really sure how much further there is at this point, but I feel like we're pretty close, but I don't want to risk burning out on this last uphill, possible last, maybe there's more uphills. So I mean, he was like right in front of me, and if I had known that was the second place male, I would have maybe put in a little more effort to try to pass him. Maybe could have, but I know he was shooting for getting a sub 10, and he made it. So yeah, he did great. But yeah, I was impressed by how he was just running up that last hill. I was like, no, man, I'm gonna hike this. Yeah,
we'll call that up to experience of the course. he knew exactly how far to go to get to the top of that hill because he's done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yes.
but yeah, I mean that's crazy that you were right up on him and then just didn't kind of like realize it and just were
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna make it up here and get to the top. So, I mean, it's an
Yeah.
amazing like accomplishment. Like third overall, first place, hour 15, almost hour 15 course record. Like that's just like incredible. Like that course
Thank
is
you.
no joke, and it's awesome to see.
It isn't. Yeah.
Kind of diving into some nuances of the race now. I want to kind of learn a little bit more about like what you did at the aid stations. What did it look like for you? Was it some solid foods? Was it liquid nutrition? Were you in and out, or did you take a long time at certain ones? How did the aid stations kind of play out over the course of your day?
So I try to get in and out of the aid stations as quickly as I can. There was one aid station I actually had to take my shoe off because I had a pebble like sitting right in my heel cup, and it was just kept bothering me. So I had to take my shoe off and throw it out of there, put it back on. So that was probably my longest time I was at an aid station. But I generally try to do more solid food. I do a lot of fruits. I actually didn't have a single gel the whole time. So I think I have a lot of, I usually take a lot of grapes. So bananas, oranges, and then I have these fig bars that I like to eat. So I have to eat gluten-free. So that was part of my, like during my lull in running, I found out that I'm gluten intolerant. So that was part of that. So like there's a lot of stuff at aid stations that I can't really eat. Like I came into one and they're like, we have pierogies and we have quesadillas. And I'm like, sorry guys, I can't eat any of that. So yeah. But so basically like my boyfriend came with me and I threw everything that I needed for the day just in a bucket, and he would meet me there, and I kind of dig through the bucket and shove some grapes in my pockets. Like my shorts have pockets on the sides, and I just shove them in there and run with those. And yeah, so a lot of little different than what I think a lot of people might eat. I don't really do a lot of like candy cause I don't really eat that in my day-to-day life either. So I'm not gonna really do that.
What's this more for me?
Yeah.
It's Halloween season coming up here.
Yeah, there you go.
I cannot
Yeah.
wait to eat all the discounted candy in about
Yeah.
in about 10 days. No, that's great to hear though, and I think I always love kind of
Yeah.
hearing the stories of what the aid stations look like for each person as well. Was there ever a moment on the course where you had your like most joyous memory out there? Was there just a moment where you either took it all in and kind of realized how special the day was for you, or anything along those lines?
Yeah. Some of the great views and vistas that were out on the course, just looking out into the fall colors, and it was just kind of surreal that I was out there. And I was pretty pumped to run this race. I kept telling my boyfriend the day before, I was like, I get to run 50 miles tomorrow. I'm so excited. So, and I'm like, I get to go through this beautiful place. And, as we're driving into Shawnee, I'm like, wow, this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be really, really beautiful and enjoyable. And yeah.
Do you think there's like with your training, or now that you've kind of experienced the Shawnee 50 and you've done a bunch of other races kind of in the region there, what advice would you give to someone who's attempting, the Shawnee 50 or 50K for the first time, and maybe hasn't done terrain similar to that in the past?
I would definitely tell people to do some hill repeats. I'm not too far from like the North Chagrin Reservoir, and there's some like nice hills that are runnable. And I think a few weeks out from Shawnee, I did like 20 hill repeats on this one, and like I was hiking fast up the hills and then running down the hills fast. And I think that's a key part of it too, is not just being able to do the uphills, but being able to go downhill fast. So I think that's one thing that kind of set me apart from a lot of people, is that I have a lot of confidence when going downhill and can go pretty quickly. And I think I was able to get, catch up to people and get ahead because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that downhill thing, I think a lot of people forget about that, where they just don't focus
Yeah.
on it, and then they completely just trash their legs on the way down, and they're not able to do anything because they just didn't practice, that type of load on the legs basically,
Yeah.
and they weren't used to it. So
Yeah, and that's something that I've been working on a lot this year because you're born good at running down hills. So it's something that I've focused on a lot and, slowly gotten better and better at it. So yeah.
When was the first time you realized you wanted to become like really good at that? Was that like something that you saw someone do, or was that like a instinctual thing from like way back when you were doing cross country and you're like, hey, I was always like wanted to attack the downhills? What was that moment like for you when you kind of made that switch?
I earlier this year, I had run a race out in Moab, Utah. It was the Red Hot 55K, and I'd actually been injured before that, so I didn't have too much training under my belt before that. But I hadn't really been running much on trails around here because they were so iced over, and it was hard because we had such a cold winter, and just the people out there, like I just kept getting passed on the downhills, like every time they were just flying down them, and I was like, wow, this is something that I need to work on. So I just did a lot of focusing on that and started to really enjoy it, so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Especially, running downhills on like the slick rock that's kind of in those conditions.
Oh,
It's basically like ice in Northeast
yeah.
Ohio around that time. I mean, I experienced
I
that.
don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know how they were doing it. Like I feel like if I was running that fast, I would have fallen on my face. But I mean, it's obviously something that they're used to. So yeah.
Well, and clearly now you're used to as well after
Yeah.
Shawnee 50, which is awesome to see. Kind of talk about what's next. What are some of your big things that you're kind of looking forward to in the future? You've done a lot of epic road marathons. Some of the most prestigious in the country. Do you have any desires to do some of the most prestigious ultras in the country?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when I was in college and I first you know, learned about ultra running, I found out about Western States, and I was like, I want to do Western States one day. So hoping to get a Western States qualifier next year. I'm doing the Heiner 50K. I'm signed up for that. And then I'm hoping to do World's End 100K. So yeah, so I think I'm going to sign up for that. And then I'd like to do a 100-miler too. I don't know if I want to do that next year or
We might have lost you for a second.
or maybe after. But yeah, I try to like slowly. I'm eager to do 100-miler. Oh no.
Oh no, we got you back.
All
Kind
right.
of going off that.
Where'd I leave off?
Just the last sentence or two. The 100-mile discussion.
Oh yeah, I want to do a 100-miler, but I don't know if I want to do it next year or the following. But yeah, so I want to kind of slowly make my way up in distance. So starting with the 100K next year, and then maybe 100 miles later in the year sometime. But
Do you have
yeah.
a preference on race? You've done the Burning River 50 twice now, so you kind of know what that course is like.
Mm-hmm.
Mohican Marathon, you won that this year, so you've been out on that course. You could possibly see yourself doing
Mm-hmm.
4 loops there. You were down at
Yeah.
Shawnee, which is, one of the similar to other 100-milers in terms of, bigger elevation gains on the East Coast, similar terrain. Do you have any inkling of, which direction you would possibly want to go for your debut 100?
Yeah, I definitely want to do something that's not necessarily flat or like an easy 100. I definitely want to do something that's more challenging. So I don't know. I seem to do better on the more challenging courses, and I seem to have more fun on it too. Like I like Burning River, but I think there's a little bit too much flat sections. I think I start to go a little too fast and maybe burn out a little bit in the beginning. And then like those last 5 miles that are on the bike and hike path at Burning River, like I think I ran for like a half mile and I'm like, okay, I gotta just walk for a minute, and then ran a half mile, walk for a minute. So I'm just so exhausted, you know.
And that area is exposed, and especially the time of day you
Oh
probably
yeah.
expecting to come through there, it would be right in your face both ways, pretty much. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
a very tough section. We got some comments here from the chat. Rick Homan says you're going to crush Heiner Mia. Eric Anderson's also in the chat.
Thanks,
Says
Rick.
World's End would be a great build up to 100, and they recommend Grindstone as your 100 if you want to touch one.
Grindstone. Okay. I'll write that down.
And then Rick says you might as well just do Eastern and get the PA Triple Crown while you're at it.
You know, I was thinking about it. I might. I don't know. We'll see.
I like it.
You're prepared over there. You're taking notes right now. Look at that. Got a pencil and everything.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, Eastern, Grindstone, Hellbender if you want to go early in the year.
Oh yeah.
5 months away, 6 months away, maybe. Who knows? We'll find out. We'll be sure to stay tuned. But outside of that, is there anything like you mentioned Western States as a race that you'd want to get to at some point? Any other big races like that?
I've thought a little bit about Hard Rock. It seems like a really difficult one, but it sounds like it's really difficult to even get into. But I think that would be pretty cool to run. And then I think it would be pretty cool to go out to Hawaii and do what is that, the Hurt 100, right? That would be pretty cool to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I would ever get into those,
Definitely. John, what do you got?
I think one more comment from Eric Anderson saying good marathoner. JFK would be maybe a great option there, but it's also a lot of it's pretty much flat. It's got a lot of flat sections to it as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I would be up for trying something flat just to see like how fast can I do a 50 mile,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's awesome. We can't wait to follow along over the next year and see your ultra sign up continue to get first place finishes. Quite the number this year. So we'll see that happening still probably. Yeah. I don't think I have anything other major. We can jump over to some quick questions here. What do you think, Wesley?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So obviously we end the show with our favorite set of quick questions here. What's one thing that you cannot leave an aid station without?
I'd have to say grapes. Anybody that runs long distance with me on the weekend knows that I always bring my grapes with me. They're just like little pockets of sugar and little pockets of energy. So
do you have a preference on color?
I like them both. I'm usually I lean towards red grapes than green grapes, but I'll go either way.
Awesome. What is the weirdest hallucination or mid-race that you've ever had, or the strangest thing you've ever seen someone at an aid station eat?
So I should hang out at aid stations more. So I can't really think of anything for that side of things. But as for hallucinations, I actually ran rim to rim to rim in April, and I remember I think I was out there for 16 hours or something. But I remember at one point I was kind of staring at this rock, and I could have swore it was a guy sitting on the trail with a sombrero on, with his head like this. And I'm like, what is he doing out here? And as I got closer and closer and closer, I was like, no, it's just a rock. It's fine. And then I kept seeing just these black dashes across the trail once the sun set. And I don't know what that was. I don't know if I was imagining things or what, but I don't know. don't really know if those count as hallucinations or maybe just my mind
The sombrero one definitely
just
counts as a
imagine things.
hallucination.
Yeah.
You imagined a whole person, so that definitely counts. Um, let's see here. Next one we've got is, what ball sport do you think you could beat most ultra runners in?
Um, I, gosh, I don't really do a whole lot of ball sports, but I did play softball when I was younger. And my nickname was Zippy because I would zip around the bases real quick. And I mean, I wasn't too bad. I'd hit a lot of grounders. So I don't know. Maybe I could beat you at that.
Awesome. And going off that, we've got a next question here. If ultra running had walk-up songs like baseball or softball, what would your walk-up song be? And then note that this is going to be added to our Ridge Runners Spotify playlist, Tunes of the Nation. So everyone who runs
Oh
with
boy.
this playlist will get to listen to your song on a weekly basis.
Oh boy. So I mean, this answer is going to change from like week to week, but a song that like keeps sticking in my head right now is Break My Stride. Do you guys know that song? I think it's Matthew Wilder. You'll have to look it up.
I don't know if I do, but I'm definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, check it out. It's like a kind of a cheesy 80s song, but it's not bad. Yeah.
Could definitely use some more 80s on the playlist, so good choice.
There you go.
Let's see. Your next one we got is one of my favorite questions. If you could run with one person in the history of the world, even if they aren't a runner, and assuming they'd be able to keep your pace, or you keep theirs, depending on who they are, who would it be, and where would you run?
That's a really good question. I think maybe I would take like maybe my grandparents and have them run with me in the Grand Canyon or something, just to, enjoy the time with them and, show them the Grand Canyon. And I think, everybody get a kick out of my grandparents keeping up with me. So, yeah, I think that would be pretty fun to do. Yeah.
It's an awesome answer. I love that. It would be also, I don't know what I would do if I saw grandparents running through the,
Yeah.
like that. I'd be like, that's awesome. Good for them.
I just like how
hope
they
you're
have to
doing the
keep
same
your pace. Like, you're like, I'm not slowing down regardless.
Yeah.
Like, you guys got to keep up with me or I'm going to drop you. This is how it is. That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts, sponsors you want to plug, thank yous you want to give, anything along those lines?
I don't have any sponsors. Maybe some thank yous for, I run with this big group. They're called the Trail Enthusiasts for Burning River, and they're a great group of people to run with. I don't know if you guys have heard of them before, but they're really welcoming, and just thank you to them for spending so many hours and on the trail with me. I really enjoy that. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're a great group of people, and it's like, I love that like Tony shows up and tries to root everybody on at every race that you ever see him at. Like, and he himself runs like, well, he just run Akron and like he's 71, and like I was like, man,
Yeah.
I wish I really hope
He just did Canal. He just did Canal Corridor. Yeah.
Yes, in that one, and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do when I'm that age. He's an
He's
animal,
awesome.
and he's a good person too. So that whole group is
He is.
all fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you run the rim to rim to rim with that whole group?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were like 21 of us, and I think Bob Smoltz organized it. So
Yeah, because he had to get a permit and everything.
if you know
'cause
him.
over a certain number.
yeah,
Yeah, it looked like an awesome time.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah. Cool.
You got any last closing thoughts here, Wesley?
I don't.
You don't?
Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Mia. This was fun to kind of recap Shawnee 50, and then obviously you learning about your journey into ultra running, and then you kind of some races that you're looking forward to in the future. So really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us tonight. It was fun. We're excited to see everything you accomplish in the coming years, and keep us posted on when you decide on what your first 100 miler is, because we'll be rooting for you.
All right. Sounds good. We'll do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ridge Runner Nation, for joining us for another episode of Ridge Runners Live. We'll see you back in 2 weeks for another episode. Stay tuned for that. We're looking forward to another good one in a couple weeks.
Do you want to surprise the people watching with who it is?
If you want to. I was going to give spoilers, but
Well, it involves canal, so we'll just leave it at that. Canal corridor. So
it does involve Canal Corridor. There we go.
and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you soon.